Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Yes, it is time to be live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to you all to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And this time around, we actually got, hold on a sec, I need to move up my mic. My hair has gone pretty big right now to the point that if I keep moving around, then chances are you might hear like just a little bit like, and it'll just be because of my hair. I know that inevitably I will get my hair cut, but for now I'm gonna enjoy the big afro. But anyways, let's get back to what I was talking about. Yes, for this episode, we got a whole bunch of fascinating animation news, some of which, maybe the news itself, will only give us little bits of information, but I can guarantee you they will supply a lot of stuff to go and talk about, because even with the small info that they have provided to us, there will be plenty of things that we shall go and discuss. And they have already done so because the internet was really talking a lot about these elements. So why not go ahead, get together, and we're gonna get things down into this one. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to go and ask you all to go into the chat wall. Friends, are you all ready for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me go and hear it, folks. Are you all ready? Let's see. Okay, we see. Oh, wow. People already got ahead of me and they want to go ahead and get things started. It's either you're getting impatient or you're just getting excited for it. I hope it's option B, because right now, it's great to hear we're all set up, we're all prepared. So let's go ahead and get ready to go. And we're gonna start things off with our first story. Yes, in our first story. Now, I'm gonna be very honest with you guys. I am not sure how you are all gonna react, because I've seen so many different kinds of opinions and so many different kinds of reactions to this. In fact, this is one thing that's probably more polarizing right now than the live action remake of Aladdin. What is it that I'm talking about? Well, of course, it has to be the announcement of the brand new Minions movie. Yes, folks, Illumination Entertainment has officially revealed the title of their next movie after The Secret Life of Pets 2, which is going to be the sequel to their 2015 spin-off, Minions. But this time around, it's not just going to be called Minions 2. They actually do have a proper title for it now, which is the big thing that they have revealed, in which it shall be called Minions: The Rise of Gru. Now, they don't necessarily have any more information related who's going to be in the cast or what the plot specifically is going to be about. But we do know, however, that it will have the release date of July 3rd, 2020, which is actually very close to the 10th anniversary of the first Despicable Me movie, and of course, the 10th anniversary of the whole Despicable Me franchise. And from there, one thing that we can already indicate right now, that according to the title, it looks like it's going to be a direct sequel to the 2015 Minions movie. Now, I'm going to go into a bit of spoiler territory, of course, but I'm sure at this point, considering that Minions is the third highest grossing movie of all time, chances are, if you're listening or watching this, then you have already seen the Minions movie. So just give me a sec. Just need a good fresh water. Yes, going back into what I was talking about. So if you may remember, right at the end of the Minions movie, it was at the moment where the Minions saved the day and all that kind of stuff. They were congratulated by the Queen of England and everybody in London is all happy. But then suddenly we see the villain, or like the main antagonist of the movie, Scarlet Overkill. She tried to go and make a last-ditch effort to go and steal the crown, because that was her main mission from the very beginning, is for her to become the Queen of England and to pretty much rule over and, you know, dominate the world and all that kind of stuff. So she tries to make a last-ditch effort to try to steal the crown and claim the throne all on her own, but then suddenly she just got blasted by an entire freeze ray. And she's just standing there frozen solid and dropped the crown. In which a little kid came in, and we saw that this kid was the one who shot the freeze ray onto her. And it turns out the little kid is actually Gru from the Despicable Me movies. And that was the moment where we first see the Minions meeting with Gru. And that was when the Minions decided, okay, if we're going to be minions to a supervillain, Gru is going to be it. And from there, Gru flies off on his flying motorcycle, and we see the Minions just immediately getting excited and following Gru. So the title that we got here, it sounds like it's going to be a direct sequel to that. Or in a way, it could be more a bridge between the Minions movie and the first Despicable Me film. Now, before I continue, as I've stated before, of course, this is something that is really getting a lot of mixed reactions. There are a lot of people that are either really excited for it and are already placing this as their most anticipated movie of next year, or there are also others that they look at this news and right now they are contemplating rather if they want to go slit their wrists or they want to go and prepare the noose. Now, yes, I know that does sound pretty grim as a joke, but considering on the age of the internet, it's not necessarily that difficult to imagine that there are people who would look at this news and they would just write on social media going, "Kill me!" Yes, you got extreme reactions from one side to another regarding this. But I just would like to point out, first of all, that when it comes to my side of things, if you guys haven't watched my reviews and stuff like that, or if you don't know, believe it or not, I am actually a Despicable Me fan. I actually really do like the films, and not only do I enjoy them, but also I actually do think that the Despicable Me movies are actually really good. They're well animated, the characters are absolutely lovable, they got a great blend of comedy and good heart as well. And on top of that, considering the legacy that they have, it's pretty much hard to deny that Despicable Me and the Minions, they have pretty much risen up to the ranks where now they are one of the most recognizable and most popular pop culture icons of the 2010 decade. In a way, you could say that the Minions have definitely defined pop culture in one part of the 21st century. Now, I will say, though, that when it comes to Minions, the 2015 movie, admittedly, I do feel like it is the weakest of the bunch. Like, compared to all the other Despicable Me films, Minions is kind of weak. I'm not saying that it's a bad film. Like, honestly, overall, it is okay. I do love the idea of bringing up their origin story, like seeing the history of the Minions, see from their very beginning what's their purpose and all that kind of stuff. That element, I thought it was great. But then when it comes to the actual plot, when you go into the story of Kevin, Stuart, and Bob, where they have to team up with Scarlet Overkill in order to steal the crown and take over London and all that kind of stuff, that's when the movie really does get a bit of a downgrade, and it doesn't become bad, it doesn't become great, it's at the point where it just becomes that's the thing. Like, both the humor, the storytelling, and all that stuff, it just goes down to the level of like, like, it was something that they could have done better. I mean, it does have its good moments, but overall, I would say, like, it's okay. It has its, it has its great moments, it has its moments, but yeah. But I will say, on my side, some of you might be wondering, though, what do I think about this in particular? If I do believe that Minions is the weakest of the Despicable Me films, how do I feel about this one right over here? Well, I'm gonna say right now, believe it or not, folks, I'm actually pretty optimistic about this one. I actually do see some very strong potential to help reshape not just the movie itself, but to help reshape the Despicable Me franchise in a whole. Now, I'm not saying that there should be more Despicable Me movies afterwards, that they have to make either a Minions 3 or a Despicable Me 4. Honestly, I do feel like it could be for the best that they should stop right over here. But I do see the potential that they can help fix things up in order to get back into an element that it's honestly been missing with more movies that they have made. And honestly, This could be one of many problems with the franchise that people have, but I do feel like one of the main problems with the Despicable Me films, and something that even I have to admit, is the fact that with the more movies that they would make, the more that they've become distant to the core of Despicable Me. Like, the element that made us love the first Despicable Me in the first place. About the concept of this superhero villain in this, like, Looney Tunes style cartoony scenario where he would find himself having to take care of 3 orphan girls. And from there, like, the more that we introduce new characters, the more that we introduce new concepts, and the more that we continue to try to expand things, I feel like we've grown distant to what made us love the first Despicable Me movie in the first place, where the focus just ends up going all over the place, where we start off by focusing on like the little girls, and then suddenly we introduce Lucy to become Gru's lover, and then suddenly we introduce the whole family aspect, and then suddenly the focus would go more onto the minions, and then like afterwards we need to go and expand on Gru's side of the family with Despicable Me 3 by bringing in Dru, and it just becomes a little bit more complicated, and again, we've grown pretty much distant to what is it that we've enjoyed and what we loved from the first Despicable Me film. Like, the first thing that we've pretty much enjoyed from it. Like, what is it that, like, made Despicable Me such a big pop culture icon in the first place? And when I see this part right over here, when I see the Rise of Gru, I could see all the potential in order to come back to the element that made us love Despicable Me in the first place, to go back to their roots. Because like I said before, looking at the title, The Rise of Gru, it does sound like it is meant to bridge the gap between the first Minions movie and the first Despicable Me film, in order to have like something that we could see in between. And from there, I feel like that is a great way to show a lot of components that not only can work out for the core of the Despicable Me film, but to really focus on what we cared about the most. Now, I'm sure that characters like Kevin, Bob, and Stuart are going to be prominent in this movie, considering it is Minions, but maybe the main character could actually be more about Gru, to see his rise of fame into villainy, because at the end of the first Minions movie, we only see him as a little kid. But then, probably with the Rise of Gru, we'll see him grow older and how he has develop himself more as a supervillain. And from there, we're not going to get any kinds of distractions from any of the other characters. We're not going to have the orphan girls. We're not going to have Lucy. We're not going to have Dru. We're not going to have any other characters. Like, the main focus will be staying with Gru and his minions. And we're going to see, like, maybe the relationship that he's going to develop with them. And on top of that, we could also see the return of, I forgot the doctor's name. Is it Dr. Nefarious or something like that? You know the guy voiced by Russell Brand. I think his voice is, I think the guy's name is, Dr. I got people correcting me. Dr. Nefario. Yes, that's what I mean. Dr. Nefarious is from Ratchet and Clank. Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah, Dr. Nefario. That's who I was thinking of. That maybe we'll see, like, Gru's relationship with him and the minions, and how Dr. Nefario comes into the scene. And maybe, like, a bit of throwbacks from the first Despicable Me film. Like, we'll see his relationship, like, maybe something to start off with Vector, or maybe with the League of Supervillains, and all that kind of stuff. Like, we're gonna go back into the core element that it's all about the villainy with Gru and his minions. So we're gonna go back to the core concept, and just the first idea that we have been introduced with the whole Despicable Me franchise, that it's all about this supervillain. And again, maybe I could be wrong on this. Maybe they're going to go and take a completely different direction. But I do feel like this is a very strong potential in order to bring Despicable Me back into its roots. To take away all the expansions and all the different ideas that they've developed in the sequels. And just go back to the core elements of what we loved about Despicable Me in the first place, about the elements that made us enjoy the concepts and what made us fall in love with characters like Gru and the Minions. Now, I know that technically, like with the Minions movie, we did get that a little bit, but not necessarily. It's more about the Minion shenanigans with a completely different villain, and that's where it doesn't necessarily work as well as others, as much as it did with the first Despicable Me film. But I feel like maybe with the Rise of Gru, that could actually be something that could work out, that, you know, really fix up Minions in order to improve it and make it more appealing, not just for the fans, but, you know, to give us a bit of a throwback of what is it that we loved about Despicable Me in the first place. And like I said before, like, this is actually conveniently placed to be released around the same time as Despicable Me's 10th anniversary, so this could be like a little bit of a throwback of what is it that we love about the Minions. What is it that we've enjoyed from the Minions? What is it that we, you know, what is it that made them such an icon to begin with? Like, what is it about the franchise's origins that really start up this phenomenon? And honestly, if they can go into that throwback route and we look into the aspects of really developing Gru as like his supervillain side that we've all known and loved from the very beginning in the first movies, then I think honestly this could actually be something that can actually be enjoyable. Now, I'm not necessarily expecting this to be like the best animated film of 2020 or something like that, but I'm expecting something that we could actually get something good. Like, you know, just a nice little throwback to the original Despicable Me, and that's all I'm asking. If we can, you know, if we can get back to the roots of the Despicable Me franchise with this one, then I would feel happy and I would feel satisfied with it. So, with that said though, I want to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you guys, what do you all think about the idea of the Rise of Gru? Are you guys excited to see the Minions come back to the big screen? Are you guys dreading the moment that the Minions are going to be coming back to the big screen? Let me know what you all think of this. Now, hold on a sec. Okay, let's see now. Who do we have here? I'm not surprised that Illumination would want to make this movie. I did enjoy the first Minions movie, but I don't really understand the point of it. I'm just going to call it right now that this movie will break $1 billion and Illumination will just continue playing safe with their movies and not take any risk. At this point, I will just wait and see how it goes. Well, I mean, like, technically, they're not doing anything, like, bad per se, so, I guess, like, a wait-and-see attitude would be best. Let's see. I can tell Illumination is only making this for money. To quote Token, a ring of power looks after itself. It may slip off treacherously, but its keeper never abandons it. At most, he plays with the idea of handling it to someone else's care. Also, your name is mentioned on the list I found online. What is it? Terrible TV shows, wiki celebtards? What the fridge? I have no idea what that is, but okay, anyways, going back to what I was talking about, I have business to attend to, so I need to read some comments over here. I personally love Minions, but I have to admit the first Minions film was average, 6 out of 10 movie. But I also love the Despicable Me trilogy. Agnes is my favorite character. I have a feeling this could make more money than all the other Despicable Me films. How do you think this film will do at the box office? Oh, well, honestly, you know, it's tough to say, you know, like you saw, like, with Despicable Me 3, you could tell that it is losing a bit of traction, and once you're at movie number 5, if we can learn from Ice Age, that's at the point where, like, the whole world is pretty much saying stop. It could go either way. I do feel like it will make some money for Illumination, but really not as much as they used to. That, or this could be another movie that could break $1 billion, because maybe not necessarily in North America, the Minions are, like, really popular and, like, they're, like, the biggest cartoon characters of all time, but I know that there are plenty of other countries, especially like in China, where they cannot get enough of Minions. So, really on that aspect, I do feel like also we might have to wait and see. But yeah, there is a pretty good chance that they could actually make over $1 billion with this. And I mean, yeah, it is true that technically, like, the first Minions movie made $1 billion at the box office, and that can play a massive factor as to why they're doing this in the first place. But yeah, like, we'll have to wait and see with how this one will go. Let's see. I personally don't mind the Minions. The movie was okay, and the title sounds pretty cool. But let me just ask, why do we need a sequel to Minions of all things? It's one of those prequels where it wraps everything up at the end of the film, with no need for a sequel, but I'll gladly go in with an open mind. Yeah, I mean, like, you do have a point. Like, we don't really need a Minion sequel. This doesn't have to happen, but if they can have a great idea, then maybe we'll see something good out of it. And you know, with the Rise of Gru, like I said, if this is going to be like a throwback to the original and go back to their roots, then maybe they'll actually have a chance to redeem itself. Maybe it could be something great. Let's see now. A lot of people nowadays are slamming down at Illumination, but really, I'd say Universal is the bigger blame for milking Despicable Me and the Minions. After all, they did milk Jurassic Park and the Land Before Time sequels. They even rushed production on Spyro and Crash Bandicoot more so than Activision before Universal Interactive Studio closed down. If you ask me on this, all I could say is, can the Nelson family return in Minions 2? They were perhaps the best part of Minions 1, and they were. Okay, well, oh, the Nelson fan. Do you mean that family, like, when the Minions are in Orlando and, like, you know, they hopped onto the car of this family in order to go to the villains convention? Are you talking about that family? Like, I get, like, I didn't know that there was a bit of that fan base. There is a fan base for the Nelson family out of all things. Like, out of all the elements and out of all the characters in the Despicable Me movies, apparently the Nelson family has a prominent fan base. Okay, I think we're pretty much all done here. Like I said before, if you guys are interested to go and check out how the Minions are going to be in their comeback to the big screen, all you have to do is wait next year on July 3rd, 2020. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump onto our next story, in which we actually have a trailer. And I'm going to be very honest with you guys, I was wondering for the longest time, when the fridge are we going to have this trailer online? Because, I'm gonna be very honest, this is something that I feel like we have, like, maybe I have seen it, but I don't know if you guys haven't seen it. It's been months since I have seen it time and time again on the big screen. Like, I think ever since, the Dumbo remake, I have often seen trailers of that movie, but never did it actually appear online, or at least on the internet in North America, like not on YouTube or not on nothing. But finally, this week, DreamWorks decided now it is the time that we are gonna see it. Now they can actually put up a trailer on YouTube. So with that said, folks, let's go ahead and check out the trailer for DreamWorks' next animated film, Abominable. So let me just set myself up and let's check this trailer out.
I've got blueberries in places where blueberries should never be.
September? I thought it was a November release, or okay then. Oh wow, okay, they changed up the release date. Okay, I was not expecting that. Okay, so yeah, Abominable. Now, I'm gonna admit, folks, there's something that I do have to confess with this one, is that, admittedly, this is actually my first time checking out this trailer right over here. And, you know, one thing I will admit is that this trailer actually does seem a little bit better. It's a better representation of the movie than the one that I've seen in theaters beforehand. Or, I don't know if you guys have actually seen that trailer, though. But, no, this one I do feel like it does sell the movie a bit better. Because the one that I've had before, the one that I've seen before that's up in theaters, like, they really do play up a bit more with the comedy. And that's one thing that I will say that is not necessarily appealing to me that much. And you do see some elements that are here as well, including the burping part where it's like, oh yeah, you're a boy. Or like right at the end when you have that little gag of like, one of the characters, like right after they all ran away from blueberries, like he has 2 blueberries stuck on his butt, like resulting with, like a giant bubble butt in a way, like, where's that dumb gag? Yeah, like this one right over here, like this dumb, stupid gag. Like, honestly, in the trailer that I've seen, they've done way worse. Like, there are dumber jokes that they would go. Like, one thing that I will say that I'm glad that they didn't do here, and I know for a fact that this is something that they have done in the previous trailer that I saw in theaters, is that, they would try to plug in Taylor Swift. And I kid you not, this is something that's, like, really dumb, the way they try to execute it, the way they try to pull it off. It's like, this was right after, like, probably after we saw the title of Abominable, and, the main character, like, she's on the roof with the Yeti, with, the Yeti that's now called Everest, and, like, we've already established that this Yeti can actually do some magic, that he can actually perform some amazing things, especially, like, with the whole, blueberry scene where he can make the blueberries giant and stuff like that. From there, she would actually go and tell the Yeti, it's like, okay, your magic is great, but now let's check out the magic of Taylor Swift. And then from there, you got a tiny little montage of, shake it off, Taylor gotta break. And from there, like, we see the Yeti just dancing around. Like, it was a pretty cringy moment and a really stupid joke. So, that's the thing about Abominable, is that so far, I'm not all that impressed, especially from that trailer, and I know about the elements of what could be to come from that trailer in there. But now with this trailer, it does seem to show that it really is taking itself seriously. And this is one comparison I've seen a lot of people make, is actually the factor of How to Train Your Dragon. And I think this trailer actually does know exactly what they're doing, especially the fact that, like, at one point, they actually did advertise by saying, from the studio that brought you How to Train Your Dragon, and that's essentially the kind of vibe that they want to try to bring you. And especially, the opening it's actually very similar to the first How to Train Your Dragon film, when Hiccup met Toothless, where we got this girl character, I forgot her name, but I'm sure they probably mentioned, is it Peng? I think, like, they mentioned the main character girl is Peña or something like that. But, from there, like, you got, like, right at the opening, like, when they establish her as a character, and then suddenly the moment where, like, you'll see over here, or if you can see, it's just, like, you see the interaction and how she first encounters with Everest, is that, oh my god, like, she was scared at first, but then suddenly they start to go and bond. Like, that one, of course, is very reminiscent. And then suddenly, of course, right afterwards, when you really get into the magical elements, that's another factor where we see a lot of How to Train Your Dragon aspects. In fact, one thing that is actually very similar, the way that they really want to sell that element, is the fact that there's a lot of flying scenes. There really are a lot of moments where the characters are just magically flying, or, like, they're up in the air in ways that no science can really explain. Like, you got the part where they're on the boat and they're kind of like surfing in the trees or something, and then there's one part where, like, they're in the skies and they're actually riding the clouds. And of course, you gotta have the scene where one of the characters, like, they gotta reach out and touch the clouds as they're gliding out in the sky. Like, you gotta have that element as well. So yeah, like, you can see a lot of comparisons where they try to do, like, this How to Train Your Dragon thing, and especially on top of that, like, you got the part, and this may seem a little bit more like a cliche, more so, because, like, you've heard of this kind of story where you got the main character, which is an ordinary person, or, like, a kid in this case, meeting up with this extraordinary thing. And throughout the whole plot, like, they want to try to make sure that they can hide this creature in particular. Like, we've seen this plot line before. Like, we've seen it in E.T., we've seen it in The Iron Giant, and now it seems like they're doing the same thing here. But in order to make that plot work, you got to make sure you can establish a very good relationship between the main character and the star creature, which in this case is the little girl, and also the Yeti, which is Everest. If they can actually pull that off, then it can work. It's a bit of a difficult thing because, like, again, this is a cliched story. We've heard this plenty of times before, but if it can be pulled off well, then it wouldn't necessarily matter. And that's why movies like How to Train Your Dragon and also The Iron Giant are, like, considered animated classics right now. They're so beloved by millions of people all around the world. So, honestly, I'm going to keep an open mind on this, and if they can pull it off, then honestly, maybe they can. But one thing I will say, though, is that if there is one good thing that I won't deny is that so far, especially from this trailer in particular, they really are showing off a lot of the animation elements that they can really do a lot more. Like, one thing that really did throw me off, and I was not expecting this, is apparently the main character's ability that she can actually also perform magic like the Yeti, but through her violin that's given to her by her dead dad. So from there, like right at the end, we see moments where she plays her violin, and then we got some magical stuff that's actually happening where, like, her magic can also conjure powers to summon flowers and really bring life to her environment. That is actually something that somehow she can do. And I won't deny, like, yeah, it's not just DreamWorks that can provide this beautiful animation. You got to keep in mind, this is actually a collaboration between DreamWorks Animation and the Chinese animation studio Pearl Studios, which is not the first time that they've actually collaborated in a movie. I think the first time that they worked together in order to make a feature film, it was actually with Kung Fu Panda 3. In fact, Pearl Studios, originally, it was meant to be like the actual animation studio for DreamWorks Animation, but in China. Before, it was actually called Oriental DreamWorks, but then they had to sell it off, and now it's just called Pearl Studios, and they're just going to go on their own. I think this is going to be one of the last movies that DreamWorks and Pearl Studios are going to be working together. So that's pretty much the big thing in here. And of course, like, considering that it is from a Chinese animation studio primarily, you could see the Chinese elements that are actually everywhere. Like, the whole thing is actually set in China. The characters are actually Chinese. Like legitimate, like, you can see their ethnicities are actually of an Asian descent. So they actually did pay attention to detail onto that department. So, of course, like, the main target audience is not necessarily going to be for the North American crowd, but instead, they want to primarily aim to have it be for people in China. That's, like, the main target that they want to go. And in the future, that could actually be something that we will see more and more of, where big animation studios are going to go and make animated films that are going to be aimed a lot more for China than an actual American audience. I know Sony Animation has one prepped up. Well, not necessarily. Like, there's a movie called Wish Dragon that's already been made, but then Sony Animation came in and they agreed to go and help distribute it, not just in China, but also later on all around the world. I know China is going to get Wish Dragon sometime this July, but the rest of the world will have to wait and see. Maybe sometime in 2020, but I know China's going to get it first before anyone. I don't think Wish Dragon has an established release date in North America just yet. But yeah, like, this is just to say that this could actually be a theme that we will see more often, that there will be we will see more Chinese-oriented animated films that are going to be more frequent from these studios. So that's pretty much the main thing. But I will say, honestly, when looking at this trailer, I am actually kind of impressed. Like, they are showing a bit more. I'm not expecting this to be, like, one of the best animated films or, like, one of DreamWorks films. And most certainly, like, especially from the last trailer, I'm not expecting this one to be even up to the standards of, like, How to Train Your Dragon. But it's not a bad effort. I will say, I'm actually quite impressed with the animation. It actually does look pretty good. Also, the magical components, that's great. I could tell, like, we'll probably have a lot of fun. And, like, I could see the potential that if they can play their cards right in order to have the characters feel genuine and have the relationship between them and the Yeti Everest, you know, actually feel strong, then we might actually have a pretty good movie in our hands. I think this is actually something that I feel like it might feel pretty nice. It could actually turn out to be a great, enjoyable movie. Now, for some reason, I thought this was going to be coming out sometime in November, but as it turns out, the release date has been switched up where in North America, it's actually going to be coming out, according to here, on September 27th. So right at the end of September. I guess they're pretty much following the lead of last year's movie. What was it? Smallfoot. Like, they want to try to do the same thing with them. And you know, this kind of throws me back a little bit. It reminds me of like when me and Eye of Saul, we would be in this podcast and we would talk about what the fridge was it called? The Yeti Cinematic Trilogy. Considering that we have 3 animated Yeti Bigfoot movies, like all released very close to each other, starting with Smallfoot, then we got Missing Link, and now we're gonna get Abominable. It's just too much of a coincidence that they're all coming together. So yes, pretty soon we're gonna get the Yeti Cinematic, so pretty soon we're going to complete the Yeti Cinematic Trilogy, and then we're going to pit all of them together to see which one is the best animated Yeti Bigfoot movie. So we'll just have to wait and see with this movie coming out on September 27th. So with all that said and done, let me go on to the chat wall, and I want to ask you guys, what do you all think about this Abominable trailer? Are you guys impressed with it? Are you guys a little bit iffy? Are you not sure? I want to know. Let me know your thoughts on that. First of all, let me get my Wawa. So good. So good. Man, best idea I had. Okay, let's see. Oh boy, a lot of people have a say on this. I'm glad to see DreamWorks and Universal are staying true to their word by taking on the 4% challenge, hiring more women directors with this flick. I'm also pleased to see a majority of the cast being Asian American playing characters of Asian descent. This is a bit of a step in the right direction for a major studio when it comes to hiring a woman and minorities. That is actually true, and that is something that they really did pay attention to. Yes, as the comment actually stated, all the actors here are, or at least the grand majority of it, is actually of Asian descent, so it's not just Asian representation for animation, but also in terms of the voice acting, it's also Asian representation. And yes, they one of the directors, while they did have Todd Wilderman as a director, they also have Jill Colton as a director as well, and I think she has actually done a bunch of other works as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe she is also the director of movies such as the Tigger movie and Open Season. She has done some directorial works before, but it's nice that she is actually getting more work to represent women in animation to direct mainstream animated features. Like, we need more of those. Okay, let's see now. I'll be honest, this film just looks decent. The animation looks pretty good with all the ways it utilizes Everest's magic. The story, while familiar, holds some intrigue, and it does hold some decent jokes, except for the last blueberry joke. But maybe it'll surprise me when I eventually see it by turning out to be a fantastic movie. Excuse me. After all, beware of the horrible hot take. That's what happens when I saw Smallfoot. Oh, so basically you're cautiously optimistic. Like, oh, you think maybe this is gonna be great, but then again, ooh. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you think this just looks decent, then beware of the one that I've seen in theaters already for a few months. Oh boy, that might turn you off even more so than Bigfoot. Let's see now. I'm hoping that Abominable will have more of a How to Train Your Dragon Troll Hunters vibe over Boss Baby Ferdinand. I'm cautiously optimistic and really hope this will turn out to be decent instead of a big turd. Okay, well, wow, we actually got more, we actually do have more cautiously optimistic people. This trailer does not really impress me so far. I feel like this movie is using a lot of plot points from other animated films and even other DreamWorks films. A girl who wants to travel the world, check. Being friends with a giant creature and trying to hide from other people, check. Honestly, it doesn't look impressive. I've seen this type of story with movies like this before. like The Iron Giant and How to Train Your Dragon, and shows like Golan the Insatiable. I'll keep an open mind and maybe wait until more. Okay. Let's see, I'll just go and read comments over here. I'll just read one more. To be honest, this is my first time watching this trailer. I've seen the other one in theaters, and I thought it was bad because it looked like it had some Ferdinand from my viewpoint. I knew I wasn't the only one who saw it. I knew I'm not crazy on that. After seeing the new one, it looks like it's going to be a bit better, although it has some bad jokes here and there, but it looks better from how I see it. I hope this new improved trailer keeps its promise as it shows, because I want to see some good original DreamWorks animated movies. And yeah, I mean, sadly, you do bring up a very good point. It is sadly true that we have yet to actually get a good DreamWorks animated movie that is actually original. That's not like a sequel or anything like that. As much as we liked How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, they have yet to really impress us with something that's new and original. I mean, at the most, like, technically, we did have Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, and that film was a lot of fun. That film was really good, but sadly, that movie also really went unnoticed, and it really is too bad. Because so far, like, what's the most notable films that we've got from DreamWorks that's not a sequel? Like, Trolls, The Boss Baby, ugh. You know, like, honestly, that could be another reason why we're gonna hope for Abominable to be good. Is just, you know, to help out DreamWorks with their original content. Because that's what they need, you know? Like, worst case scenario, can we just bring in some of the, like, TV people and bring them onto, like, the movie department to bring us a good film? Because so far, it kind of feels like DreamWorks is doing a better job with television, more so than they are with their movies. Okay, with all that said and done, I think we're pretty much all good with Abominable. And now we're going to go and move on to our next story. Yes, with the next story that we have right over here, this is going to be something that I'm going to be honest, we got a lot more info about. But the more I'm reading about it, the more I am fearing it. Because I feel like we're going down a dangerous slope that we have already gone before. Yes, the news has stated that Michael Peña has signed on in order to be one of the stars of the live-action animation hybrid of the Tom and Jerry movie. Now, this is not the first actor to be revealed that he will be a part of this project. Before they actually stated that Chloe Grace Moretz is also going to be one of the stars of the feature as well. In fact, she will be the star of the movie. And if I may read my source here through Deadline, it states that in terms of not just who Michael Peña is going to be, but also in terms of the whole movie in general, what the plot could actually be about. It states, Peña joins previously announced star Chloe Grace Moretz, who leads the film as Kayla, a new hire at an elegant park hotel where Jerry is staying. Worried for her job, she hires a broke alley cat Tom to get rid of the mouse. Peña's character, Terrence, is the deputy general of the hotel. A bit of a bully, he hires Kayla as a temporary hire only to end up pitting against her and Tom and Jerry once she starts impressing upper management. So Michael Peña, basically, he's going to be the villain where he runs the hotel, but he's worried that he's going to be upstaged by the star of the film, which is going to be Chloe Grace Moretz. Oh, and on the side, of course, we're going to have some moments with Tom and Jerry. No! Not again! It's happening again! Have we learned nothing from 1992, people? Have we learned nothing by the mistakes of 1992? Now, in case you guys might have not known, of course, technically, this is not the first big Tom and Jerry movie that's going to be out in theaters. Beforehand, there was a 1992 film which literally is Tom and Jerry the movie. And from there, it did get released in theaters, but it turned out to be a bomb all around. Audiences hated, critics hated, and it was just a box office flop. But the thing is, one reason why it really flopped hard, why it left many people with a bad taste, is the fact that in Tom and Jerry the movie, the main character is not Tom and Jerry the movie. They were a little bit. You know, there was a little moment where Tom and Jerry, they were actually the stars. But it's not actually about them. Instead, they decided to immediately shift the focus onto this little girl. And this little girl, she has lost her way, and she wants to go and find her dad, which apparently is some big adventurer, and she wants to escape from the hands of her evil aunt or something like that. But the point is that they decided to shift the focus onto this little girl and make Tom and Jerry just the side characters. They decided to put them on the side as the comic reliefs who's going to help out the little girl. And that's pretty much it. Now, I understand, folks, that when it comes to the subject of Tom and Jerry, it is actually pretty difficult to figure out what could actually be a good idea for a story for a legitimate Tom and Jerry movie. Because the concept of Tom and Jerry, it really is as basic as it can get. It's about this cat chasing a mouse. Cartoon slapstick hijinks ensues. Literally, that is it. You really don't have all that much to go and work with. And that is why, not just with the Tom and Jerry movie, but also with a lot of their direct-to-DVD sequels, usually what ends up happening is that you're going to have one side of the movie where they're going to tell the plot, and then another side where there's going to be Tom and Jerry doing their usual hijinks, and both of them are going to be connected just by this, like, tiny little line. There's only this small connection between the two, but that's pretty much it. Otherwise, you could just easily cut it and both of them can be separate entities on their own. It's like, yeah, one can actually live without the other. And I mean, like, no matter which Tom and Jerry movie you check out, whether it be the 1992 film or even like some of the recent directed-DVD sequels like the Wizard of Oz one or the Willy Wonka one or the Fast and the Furious or what the fridge ever, like that's usually the case. And it looks like they're doing exactly that for here. They're literally just giving it a bigger budget and putting it on the big screen. Like, why? Why can't we just have freaking Tom and Jerry be the stars of a Tom and Jerry movie? If you're going to make a film about Tom and Jerry, make it about them. Make them the stars. Why does it have to be like some random little girl? Why do you have to integrate so many other characters in order to have like some form of plot? Like, seriously, it's just like, why do you have to go in that direction? I just feel like it's ridiculous. Like, maybe you can have that be the setting of the movie, but other than that, like, what? That's all I'm asking. Like, can we just have a Tom and Jerry movie? Like, can we actually have a Tom and Jerry movie about Tom and Jerry? Why is that so hard to ask, you know? But then again, you gotta keep in mind it is still very early in production. They're just bringing on board actors right now. And you never know, maybe director Tim Story has some massive plans with what they can do with this movie. And I could totally be wrong. Maybe Tom and Jerry will actually play a much bigger part into the story. Maybe there will be an important reason, and maybe Tom and Jerry will actually be the stars much more than Chloe Grace Moretz or Michael Peña. Who knows? But honestly, from what I'm reading so far, I am not impressed with what's going on. Honestly, this is something that I feel like I'm dreading, and basically, it's going to be going towards the same direction as many of the other, like, animation live-action hybrids, you know, movies like freaking Yogi Bear, or the Smurfs, or, like, Alvin and the Chipmunks, or whatever, or even, like, with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie trailer. So, honestly, I look at this, and I'm just, yeah, this is not really something that is impressing me so far. Unless they could prove me wrong when the trailer will eventually come out next year or something like that. It's just something that I see this and I'm like, oh no, we're gonna see the same kind of mistakes happen again. So if you guys are interested, or if you're curious about when this is gonna be happening, Warner Brothers did actually put in an official release date for it, as this movie is going to be coming out on April 16th, 2021. So in about 2 years, this movie is going to be coming to life. But so far, I definitely do hope that I am wrong in this case. I really do hope that we will have more of a Tom and Jerry movie and not like something that it's going to be starring Chloe Grace Moretz and she'll have her thing and she's going to be the star. Oh, and we might have Tom and Jerry on the side. I really do hope. So with that said, folks, let me know, what do you think, chat wall, about your thoughts about so far what we got with Michael Peña and Chloe Grace Moretz on board, and so far the plot of Tom and Jerry, the movie. Are you guys hopeful about it? Are you guys disappointed? Are you excited? Are you fearful? Let me know your thoughts right now. Okay, let's see what we got here. I'm having doubt about this movie. The similarities to the animated film to the live action is already concerning. Also, it has Tim Story, who directed the god-awful 2 Fantastic Four movies. Then again, I mean, you could say that about Tim Story, but at least he's not the director of Fan Four Stick. He didn't direct that 2015 film. I mean, say what you will about the Fantastic Four movies from the 2000s. At least they're not the Fan Four Stick one, I'm just saying. Okay, anyways, going back to what I was talking about. It's good that Moretz and Peña are going to be in this movie. I just hope Peña won't tell him a story that he does as Lewis. Also, it's awesome that Tim Story is working on it. His Fantastic Four movies were way better than Fan Four Stick. Okay, so, yeah, there are some people who are... Okay, so that film actually does have a fan base, funny enough. I was hopeful that this will be more interesting than Peña was on to it. I wish the old ones will crawl out of their brains. Okay. Let's see now. I don't understand why don't they do a new Tom and Jerry DC comic series when they flip it on its head and do something different, like the Flintstones being a commentary on our times and Scooby-Doo Apocalypse, where it's like an Evil Dead comic with these characters. I don't know what to do with it, but a talented writer can do something great like the other Hanna-Barbera DC comics. Yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure, but I think I've heard that it's pretty much official that those comics are pretty much done. Like, they've officially finished off the Hanna-Barbera DC comics. Like, I think it wasn't too long ago that they actually officially finished off the Scooby-Doo one, and then they decided they're no longer going to do any more. It is true, though, that it is kind of surprising that they have yet to actually do one with Tom and Jerry, since, like, they've done a whole bunch of characters, and they even done, like, some of the more obscure characters, like, they've done it with characters with, Magilla Gorilla, or Jabberjaw, or I think, like, they've also done it with Hong Kong Phooey, but, with all those characters, it is surprising that, with Tom and Jerry, they have yet to actually go into it. But then again, it is true that Tom and Jerry are not necessarily some of the first characters that you would think about when it comes to Hanna-Barbera, because with Hanna-Barbera, they're much more well-known for their TV shows like the Flintstones and Scooby-Doo and the Jetsons and Johnny Quest and Space Ghost and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to Tom and Jerry, like, a lot of people recognize them more as, like, something out of the MGM cartoons lineup. Yes, it is Hanna-Barbera's creation, but Tom and Jerry, with the format that they have done, and I mean, considering that, like, when you think about, like, the classic cartoons, like the Cat Concerto, like, the animation is very smooth. It's, like, it has a bigger budget than the TV shows. It's not something that you would first think of when it comes to Hanna-Barbera, so that could be an explanation of why we have yet to actually receive that. Anyways, let's get back to what I was talking about. Let's get back into the comments. They are giving Tom and Jerry the Michael Bay Transformers treatment, where they made them part of the title, but put them on the side in the movie, and I dread to see what the CGI Tom and Jerry would look like. Their type of humor is best for 2D, and it would be weird for live-action CGI. Yeah, that could be true, but I really do hope that they don't really go in that direction of, like, the Michael Bay Transformers films, because if they really want to do that with Tom and Jerry, then poor Chloe Grace Moretz, they're gonna put her in some of the skimpiest clothing, and we will have a lot of butt shots. I mean, she's a very pretty girl, but honestly, do you want to try to exploit her that way in a Tom and Jerry movie? I'm just saying. Alright, anyways, we're gonna go and, okay, yeah, I'll just read one quick one. With Peña's involved, no, I think I already read you. Anyways, if you've wondered what Tom and Jerry slapstick looks like in a live-action CGI area, look at Azrael in the Smurf movies. Oh, the cat. Oh, that's what you mean. Oh God. Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, I forgot. The comment is referring to the cat in the live action Smurf movies, where we see the cat just like pulling off some dumb slapstick. Even though it is a realistic cat, they try to animate it in a really cartoony way, reacting to the stupid things that Hank Azaria Gargamel would be doing. Okay, so with that said though, I think we're pretty much done with this little piece of a potential disaster, and now we're gonna go and jump onto our next piece of a potential disaster. Or at the very least, it seems like with this story, they want to try to avoid disaster. That seems to be like the major goal here. And what I am talking, of course, is something that they just recently announced that they were gonna do, and that is related to Sonic the Hedgehog. Yes, director Jeff Fowler has confirmed that they are going to be delaying the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Originally, it was supposed to be released on November 8th of this year, but now they are going to be delaying it to February 14th, 2020. Now, the reason as to why, of course, is mainly because of the fact that they are going to be changing up this piece of Nightmare. Yes, this is all part of the promise to go and change things up of the design of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, you might remember when the trailer was first released, it was mass hysteria on the internet. The whole freaking internet was freaking out over the nightmarish design that they created with Sonic the Hedgehog in an attempt to bring him back. And the day afterwards, the director promised that they would try to go and change up the designs to make it more appealing for audiences. And from there, they decided that, you know what, this might be something that could take time, so they're going to go and release it on February 14th, 2020. Give it 3 more months to give it time so that the rendering process can do well, so that the visual effects team can actually take more time with it. Because that's kind of the big thing about why they have to delay it, because even that announcement about changing the release date, that was, no, not changing the release date, but the announcement of changing the design of Sonic, that was something that was very controversial as well, almost as much as the design itself, where some people have criticized the fact that because those changes had to be made, it means that the visual effects team might have to work like over hours, and like they have to pretty much be forced to go and work like even longer and much more for the sake of like pleasing audiences and just fixing up what seems to be a major error. Now, one thing I would like to point out, that now that it's no longer released in November and now on Valentine's Day 2020, I'm just going to read a little bit from my source here in the Hollywood Reporter, as it states that in terms of ooh, sorry, just a little bit of spit is like kind of stopping me from talking. But anyways, back to what I was talking about. Going back into here, it states in the Hollywood Reporter, Sonic enters a rather competitive February corridor. It now opens opposite Fox's upcoming Kingsman prequel and will come 1 week after Warner Bros. And DC's Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous and Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, which stars Margot Robbie. And from there, one thing that I would like to comment is that I think it's very obvious that when it comes to Sonic the Hedgehog, honestly, this is everyone involved making the film. And I'm not just blaming it on the studio, but Paramount, Sega, director Jeff Fowler, the producers, those people are now all desperate to try to please audiences with this movie. Like, those people are not the boss. It is evidently clear that the internet is the boss. Keep in mind, as I've stated before in the podcast, it is extremely rare, nearly mythological, the fact that there is a character design that is so bad, that is so poorly made, that it received massive backlash from audiences, and the filmmakers promised that they would try to go and fix things up in order to try to improve it before the film's release date. Now, yes, there have been some that are due to social issues, but in this case right over here, this is just because it looks like garbage. This looks like an entire nightmare in itself. This looks like the kind of character design that just screams out, "Kill me! It hurts when I breathe!" And that's me. That's basically the whole idea about changing up the character designs, because you can tell now they're just so desperate to try to please fans with it, and they want to try to avoid as much controversy as possible. And now at the point that once again they are giving in to audiences' demands in order to go and delay it onto February. Now, for me, in terms of my opinion, I might have already expressed this before, but honestly, I feel like it's kind of pointless trying to do this character change, because when I saw the trailer, this was a major problem. Like, Sonic's design, yeah, that's one of the biggest problems of why this looks like it could be a massive disaster. But also, another major reason is mainly because I look at the trailer and it just seems like it's gonna be such a poorly made, lazily written movie where, like, the script just feels like a joke. The story feels absolutely cliched, and other than Jim Carrey, like, all the other actors feel like they're not even trying. Like, James Marsden was freaking dull. Like, as I said before, with Jim Carrey, like, he was the most entertaining aspect of the whole trailer, not because he was amazing, but because everything around him was just massive garbage. It was just purely terrible. So honestly, they're gonna go and try to solve one problem, but is it also gonna solve the problem about the script itself? Because that could potentially be a major issue, more so than Sonic the Hedgehog. And even if you do try to fix up the design of Sonic the Hedgehog, then that means you're going to be highlighting the other problem right over there. And since you seem to be so, like, you've pretty much made yourself an entire servant to the internet and to the audience, like, what's going to happen next when you're going to release the other trailer to fix up the character design? Like, what? Are you going to delay the movie again so that you can work up a better script? Like, what the fridge are you going to do? Honestly, there's real no point. Honestly, it's just, I feel like there's no real reason why they have to change up the design when already, just by the script itself and just by the acting of many of the other characters, I feel like, honestly, I just look at this as like, don't do it. Just accept your fate, man. You know, you made your bed, now you gotta go and lie on it, you know? You made the cake, now you gotta eat it. So, just, you know, honestly, I just feel like, I look at this and it's like, yeah, don't even try. Accept your fate, man. This thing is gonna turn out to be terrible regardless. Accept your fate. But one thing that I will say, though, that is actually quite beneficial for this movie, one thing that I do feel like there is something regarding Sonic that it can actually work out, that just needed a bit of water. Something that I do feel like Sonic can actually benefit a lot more by being placed in February instead of just November. Hear me out on this. Now, on its November release date, on November 8th, it would be up in a massive competition. Like, when you do look in the long run during November, there are going to be some major movies that are going to be out. Most namingly, like a few weeks after that original release date, it would have been Frozen 2. And that, I can guarantee you, is going to completely overshadow Sonic, no pun intended. And even, like, right afterwards, like, there would be absolutely no way for Sonic to even find any money by the end of the year, because then, when 2019, by the end of 2019, when December will roll along, you're gonna have movies like the third Jumanji movie, and especially Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, where Sonic's fame as a movie star is gonna be quickly faded out. So, by putting it in February 2020, yes, it did state right over here that there will be some competition, and there will be some kind of fierce competition, especially with the Kingsman prequel, and then also you got the DC movie Birds of Prey. However, one thing I could argue about that is that they're not necessarily as threatening competition. So from there, maybe the design will actually help out Sonic in order to go and improve things out. Like maybe it can actually help maintain an audience. Now, of course, with Kingsman and with the DC movies nowadays, they're not necessarily as like threatening powerhouses as much as something like Frozen or Star Wars. So this could actually be one thing that could be very beneficial for Sonic the Hedgehog. Not necessarily just for the visual effects team to have more time to fix up Sonic's design, but also for the release date, so maybe it can actually perform better and that it can be more prominently presentable in theaters during the time of its release. Who knows? But that's just my little prediction, but honestly, I feel like there are some things to gain about, like, even though some of it does feel like the intentions are pointless a bit, because you could really tell that they're just desperately trying to please everyone here. But yeah, that seems to be the big thing. Yeah. If you've marked your calendars for November 8th, well, you can pretty much free your time there, because now Sonic the Hedgehog is going to be coming out on Valentine's Day 2020. So, if you got a date that you're not necessarily all that fond of, well, then bring them to Sonic the Hedgehog and maybe traumatize them a little bit. Okay, so with that said, let us all go and get into the chat wall right now. And I would like to ask you guys about your opinion regarding Sonic the Hedgehog and the delay for 2020. How do you feel about this situation? Do you think it's a good idea for Sonic to be delayed to 2020? Do you think it's a bad idea? Do you think it's going to be beneficial for the film to have a redesign? Do you think it might not? Let me know what you all think right over here. Okay, let's see now. I actually don't mind the story of the movie since it actually fits Sonic from the adventure games and Sonic X. My only problem were Sonic's design and the song they use. If Sonic was designed better and they use a Sonic song, I would have liked the trailer more. Hopefully the execution of the story works. Maybe it can be like a family-friendly Deadpool. Well, no, actually, it cannot be a family-friendly Deadpool. Detective Pikachu already got that title. Like, if you want a family-friendly Deadpool on a movie based on a video game, that's Detective Pikachu. Pikachu already got you covered there. And Pikachu doesn't necessarily have to worry about using, like, bad, like, pointless songs or like, using horrible CGI. The CGI was great in there, so Pikachu's already got you covered for a family-friendly Deadpool. Alright, let's see here. They are getting desperate to appease the fans by changing the designs and nothing else about the movie. They are not going to make the money that they could have gotten in November, and they'll just have to accept that. Yeah, that could be true. You never know. This movie really looks cliched and bad. I'm glad that they are changing the design, but I don't think it will help the movie much since the movie will likely be bad. The only decent thing is Jim Carrey as Eggman in the trailer. Yeah, that is true. And by the way, there is something that I don't want to alarm you people, but this is honestly a rumor that I have heard about. This is honestly something that I feel like could actually be worrisome. Is that this might not be true at all. Just a little bit of a heads up there, but I have actually heard that there is a possibility that Jim Carrey is barely going to be in there. Like, the total running time of Jim Carrey's appearance as Dr. Robotnik or Eggman or whatever could actually end up just being 10 minutes. Now, again, this could not be true at all, but then again, this could be something that I feel like might actually be concerning. Okay, let's see. The redesign of Sonic the Hedgehog would be pointless, as it would probably not save it from the bad jokes and abysmal writing. Also, the movie is released on Valentine's Day. I wonder how women across America would feel when their boyfriends would take them to see this movie as a Valentine's Day gift. would probably be the worst Valentine's Day present ever. Oh boy. I mean, like, honestly, and this is gonna be a dating tip for guys in the future, honestly, the only reason why you would want to bring your girl or your guy or whatever to go and check out the Sonic the Hedgehog movie would be because your significant other loves Sonic the Hedgehog. Not you, but them. Because you gotta do something for them and not you. If they ain't interested in Sonic the Hedgehog, don't be dragging them into this movie. So just a little bit of a heads up. You gotta do, the thing is, for the movie, you gotta do it for them, not for you. So that's just a little bit of a heads up. You better write that down as a note for your future Valentine's Day gift. So just a little bit of a warning. Okay, so let me just get a little bit of water here. All right. I'm pretty much all good right over here, and I think we're all good to go with this story. And now, it is time that we are gonna go and face the grand finale. Okay, and this one right over here. I'm just giving you all a little bit of a warning. We are about to embark into some controversial territories. Yes, this might not be something that you might be sensitive regarding some certain subjects, so this is just a little bit of a warning. You know me, I'm one of the cartoon reviewers that's not afraid to go head first into some pretty nasty controversy here. And what I am going to talk about right over here is actually a little bit of an update regarding one of last week's stories. Now, you might recall about one little thing that was trending that got the internet freaked out about and mostly really happy is actually regarding the element of the season 22 premiere of Arthur, where it actually depicted a wedding with Mr. Ratburn and his significant other, which is actually a guy, showing a same-sex marriage. Now, the grand majority of the internet absolutely adored it. They loved the fact that an old character that they remembered in their past, Mr. Ratburn, not only was he getting married, but he turned out to actually be gay as well, which apparently he was pretty much hinting out with his hint of cake. Like, honestly, if you looked at the clips of Mr. Ratburn and his fascination with cakes and stuff like that, you will see his tone completely change, and the clues were instantly there. Like, all right, class, our next subject, is that cake? No joke. But, unfortunately, the thing right over here is that, the key word is that it is the grand majority. Unfortunately, there are a few homophobic people that were kind of upset about the news that there was gay representation on television. And apparently there was one state, however, decided to take one step ahead, and we're going to be getting into what's right now the most hated state in the United States, Alabama. Yes, folks, Alabama decided that they want to refuse to air the episode of Mr. Ratburn getting married. Yes, Alabama Public Television decided that they do not want to air the season 22 premiere of Arthur, mainly because of the ending moment of that episode when Mr. Ratburn was getting married to his partner. We actually got a quote here from the director of programming in Alabama Public Television, Mike McKenzie, in which his reason, he has stated, "Parents have trusted Alabama Public Television for more than 50 years to provide children's programs that entertain, educate, and inspire. More importantly, although we strongly encourage parents to watch television with their children and talk about what they have to learn afterwards, parents trust that their children can watch APT without their supervision. We also know that children who are younger than the target audience for Arthur also watch the program." And from there, I just would like to point you out that this is not the first time that Arthur got himself into controversy, especially with this kind of controversy as well, actually showing a same-sex couple onto television. This actually happened back in 2005 with the spin-off film of Arthur, the spin-off show of Arthur called Postcards from Buster, where there was at one point, they were showing scenes in Vermont, and then suddenly they were showing a same-sex couple just minding their own business. They weren't doing anything explicit, they weren't doing anything nasty, they were just a couple being a couple, no different than you and me. They were just living their lives, but apparently that was enough to freak people out, so this was not necessarily the first time. Now, I understand that it's not necessarily just this, but also, especially from, I think a few weeks ago, actually, I think it was a few weeks, not last week, but yeah, a few weeks ago, there was also the massive controversy as well that Alabama actually put out, like, one of the strictest bans on abortion ever. So much so that even rape and incest and all that kind of nasty stuff, like, that thing is actually less of a crime than abortion. So literally, if there's a guy that actually raped a woman, but the woman wanted to abort the baby that was the result of the rape, the woman will actually be more punished, more so than the guy who actually raped the woman in the first place. So from there, of course, Alabama, and especially the GOP, got some massive backlash. Like, the grand majority of people, not just in America, but all around the world, are despising Alabama right now for very strict and very misogynistic rules that they want to force out onto women, like pretty much to make the Handmaid's Tale come to life. But I'm going to be very honest with you guys. When I heard about this news, of course, related to the Arthur news, now, of course, this is actually something that Americans, actually, not just Americans, but people around the world, like, of course, it just adds fuel to the fire to add anger and hatred onto Alabama, that Alabama is really doing a terrible job and that they're really going backwards into history. But honestly, with me, I'm not that mad. I'm not necessarily all that upset about Alabama. Because here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Now, stuff like this, like the abortion ban and censoring the Arthur episode, this does not represent Alabama. It doesn't represent the viewpoint of all the people in Alabama. In fact, I could even go as far and say that this does not represent the point of view of Alabama Republicans. I'm sure that there are Alabama conservatives that they are okay with the LGBT community, and Alabama conservatives that are okay with legalizing abortions. However, this over here, the only people that would be angry about Arthur showing a same-sex wedding, these are the uneducated. These are the people who are so enveloped in their religious beliefs and in their conservative beliefs that it looks like they have a mental disorder. And for me, I can't necessarily be mad at them, because the case right over here is the fact that they're just doing it because they don't know any better. It's like that special kid in your class, when you see, like, he might end up doing something stupid, like he broke a glass, or like he hit his head on the wall for some strange reason, or that he ate his eraser or stuff like that. You can't necessarily get mad at him because, well, he just doesn't know any better. It's just that his mental capacity isn't as necessarily as advanced enough as most of the others. And the same case right over here. It pretty much is the same case for the people who support Alabama's abortion ban, or who support censoring the Arthur episode over here. It's just the fact that they're very uneducated. They're very intellectually inept. And honestly, some people might be angry at me for saying that, but honestly, I actually do have proof of that case, that Alabama is actually a state that is very uneducated. Again, it doesn't represent all Alabama people, but those who are not as intelligent, or those who are said to be very religious or very conservative, oh boy, are they dumb as a post. In fact, here's the thing. you might remember Wallet Hub. They actually did do statistics, and they have done some very deep research to try to figure out which are the states that are the most educated and which ones are the ones that are the least educated. And just to go over here, like some of the most educated states, we actually got Massachusetts at number 1, and then we got like Maryland, Vermont, Connecticut, Colorado. But then when you go into the flip side, when you go into the bottom, Alabama is actually among the 5 least educated states. Like right up there with Arkansas, Louisiana, West Virginia, and Mississippi. So yeah, like even statistically, there is legitimate proof that Alabama is actually a very uneducated country, a very uneducated state. And there are many people who just don't understand that they're just so encased in their own little beliefs that they're just trapped in their little safe space. That they're just very fearful. And the way that they would react is out of fear. And sometimes it would also seem like out of hatred and out of discrimination because they don't understand these concepts. Because these things are so different from them, they don't understand it. So that's why their reactions are a lot more emotional, and that they would immediately react with stuff like this, that they want to shun things that are different from them, or shun ideas and concepts that are just completely different that they cannot comprehend. And gay rights and same-sex marriage is something that they just cannot comprehend. They cannot, like, register in their heads about what that means. I mean, the sad thing is that they'll comprehend incest because that's like the marriage or the love between a man and a woman. But they won't understand something like same-sex marriage or being attracted to a person of the same gender. That is a concept that would be entirely foreign. And instead of learning about it, they would want to try to distance themselves. They want to try to pretend that it just doesn't exist in general. And you know, the sad thing about it is that with Arthur, this actually, you know, the beauty of this episode right over here is the fact that it could actually teach these people. It can actually teach kids, and it can actually teach adults about same-sex marriage. It could show them how these are people that are no different than you and me. That after they saw that episode, that they can actually have a talk and learn about what they have experienced. And I mean, the thing with Arthur is that this is as family-friendly as you can get. That people of all ages could actually really love. That they could actually really enjoy. And the thing is, like, this Arthur scene, like, it's as simple as you could get. We don't actually see them, like, full-on make out. We don't see Patrick putting his chocolates onto Mr. Ratburn. You know, it's not like Princess Peach's cakes or anything like that. We don't have any gratuitous sex scenes, or it's not like we saw like a freaking massacre. It's not like it's not like the wedding from Kill Bill or anything like that. You know, it's just a simple wedding and nothing more. But yet, instead of actually using it as a teaching opportunity, instead about learning about people who have like same-sex marriage, or not, instead of learning about same-sex couples, they decided to just completely censor it and try to pretend that it doesn't exist. And honestly, I would have to say, on Mike McKenzie's part, like, he pretty much became an embarrassment to his nation. Like, he pretty much became such a national disgrace with the thing that he's trying to do. I mean, like, come on, man. Let's be honest with you guys. This, like, Mike McKenzie, he pretty much made himself look so freaking pathetic. Like, do you really want to be known as the guy who is too scared to put up an Arthur episode because it contains something that he doesn't understand, because it contains something that he doesn't comprehend about the idea about two people in love? Like, do you really want to be that guy who's too scared to show an Arthur episode? I mean, seriously, you said yourself, Mr. McKenzie, that you want to make sure that children's programs are meant to entertain, to educate, and to inspire, that you want to make sure that Alabama Public Television would be able to go and present that. and yet you refuse to do so. You refuse to give the opportunity for children to be entertained, to be inspired, and to educate. And that's probably the biggest thing. You fail to want to let the kids to be educated? Honestly, at this point, it's either you should put up that episode or you should freaking retire, or you should resign, really. Like, if you're not interested in doing your job, if you're not interested in wanting to have children to learn, then honestly, what the fridge are you even doing? Like, either put it up or freaking get out. But here's the interesting thing, though, about, this is the element that I do feel like it is actually very interesting. And this is what's going to really differentiate from the people who are more educated and the people who are not. Now, some people may think that in Alabama, by not showing this Arthur episode, like, it is gone forever. There is no way whatsoever that in Alabama you would be able to watch this episode. And yet, the more educated people, they know for a fact that television is not the only way that they could actually see that Arthur episode. Because, you know what? There's more than one way to watch TV shows like Arthur. In fact, it even stated right over here in my source in Animation Magazine, like right at the bottom, it states that the episode titled Mr. Ratburn and the Special Someone is currently available to stream on PBS's official website. Click here to watch the episode. So if you want to see that episode and you're in Alabama, you can actually go online and just check it out. I don't think PBS put in some kind of Alabama filter to say, no, because you're in this state, you're not allowed to see it. And even at that, even if they did so, like, it's not just PBS. Like, I've seen it on YouTube circulating around that they did actually put up that episode. So, like, you could check it out either on YouTube or any other website. There are ways that you can watch it more so than just on television. And that's the sad thing about Mike McKenzie, is that he made himself look so dumb and look so uneducated that he thinks that by not showing it onto television, that now Alabama people won't have a way to find out what this is. But sadly, no, that's not the case. By censoring it, Mr. McKenzie ended up making himself look homophobic, that he is against the LGBT community for some inexplicable bigoted reason. And honestly, even though this is like an uneducated choice from restricting children from actually learning in general, like, this is, like, it does have some dangerous consequences as well, where because Alabama Public Television has done this, this unfortunately has encouraged more uneducated people to go and believe that they have the power to dictate about the amount of LGBT representation can be allowed or not to be shown onto media in general. Like, I have unfortunately seen a lot of people making comments saying that they think they're able to say that, okay, you know, there's a lot of LGBT representation, that's enough. That they think that they're a lot, you know, they think that they have the power to say that, oh, we're allowed to show as many pointless heterosexual romance, like, we can even force that in, like, that's okay, that's fine. But apparently, they feel like it's okay to just limit the amount, to say that, okay, that's fine for you to do that, no, we already have a lot of it, no, like, we need to hold back, that's too much. Which, honestly, if anybody does that, yeah, like, honestly, they have to be called out. They're all homophobic if they have to do so. In fact, I'm not necessarily afraid to say that anyone who is, like, upset about the fact that in an Arthur episode, they actually did show a same-sex marriage, that if they really are that upset, or they feel like it is problematic that an Arthur episode does that, that can only mean that they are homophobic. We need to stop, you know, letting it slide. We need to stop letting that argument slide. We need to stop letting people think that way because of, like, personal reasons or personal beliefs or religious beliefs or political beliefs. No, it's bigoted, honestly. Arthur did nothing wrong to show a same-sex marriage. There's nothing bad about it. Honestly, the only problem are the people who are upset about this fact. In fact, I'm sure most of the people didn't even know that Arthur was still being aired on TV. So, honestly, these people need to be called out as homophobes. And yes, having the ideology of thinking that you need to have the power to go and limit the amount of LGBT representation, that is also something that is bigoted, that is homophobic, and very discriminatory towards the LGBT community. So I just want to lay that out there. But in this factor, of course, the people who do have that mindset, the people who do have that ideology, again, they're just extremely uneducated because they fear of the unknown. They fear of concepts that they just don't necessarily understand. Just like the concept of women's bodies, the fact that most people who do support abortion bans, the people who do support abortion bans are just men who are clearly uneducated and don't understand the anatomy and don't understand the concept of the woman's body. In fact, like the Alabama abortion ban, the grand majority of it, if not all, were actually created by men. I mean, why else is it that they even consider rape and incest less of a crime than a legitimate abortion? You know, that's the thing. It's because they are uneducated. They have less time to actually educate themselves about how a woman's body works, or about gay rights, about like people who are attracted to the people of their same sex. Like, they just don't understand it, and they try to shun it. They try to resent it. They try to pretend that it doesn't exist. And you know, there is something that is there is also something here that I feel like it is very ironic when it comes to this censorship right over here. Is the fact that it comes to another very uneducated group. This is the kind of people that you would see online, the kind of people that you would actually see on the internet. You know, those people who would constantly make rants and are always angry, and like they would literally blame all the world's problems on people that they label as liberals, SJWs, snowflakes, and feminists. That, like, those people, like, and especially with the way that they advocate against censorship, and they get all angry and blame those people for things like the alleged censorship of Dumbo, where they're going to remove the crow scene in Disney Plus, or like in the song Arabian Nights in Aladdin, that they have to completely remove the line where they cut off your ear when they don't like your face. You know what's interesting is the fact that, yeah, they try to advocate for censorship, and yet, they remain rather silent about this kind of censorship right over here. That they're not advocating, that, you know, they're not against Alabama for censoring this Arthur scene right over here. They somehow seem suspiciously silent. And I think it's probably because, again, of their uneducation regarding LGBT people. That could be another major factor. I'm just pointing that out. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems very suspicious that those people seem to be very selective when it comes to the subject of censorship. But with all that said and done, though, one element that I do feel like has to be brought up is regarding the thoughts about the creator of Arthur, Mark Brown. Because whenever this subject would be brought up, some people are wondering, what does Mark Brown feel about the whole situation? Well, let me tell you. The thing with Mark Brown is that Mark Brown says gay rights. He fully supports this whole thing. In fact, I'm going to be reading from my source here in Pride.com in an interview he had with CBC News. And he actually stated, when he first heard about the reactions about Mr. Ratburn's wedding, he stated, "I started reading the comments and it just made me feel great that we did something that was so helpful to so many people." And he would go on to continue by saying, the more we talk, and this is also to cover about the controversial censorship, that the more we talk about it, the more we saw it as an opportunity for a learning experience, and this great way to represent another part of life that is so seldom gets portrayed on television. Art reflects life. Life reflects art. And I think that kids need to see what's happening in the world. I would hate to live in a world that was sanitized and censored. So that's the thing. Mark Brown fully supports the wedding of Mr. Ratburn and Patrick. And he hates the idea that states like Alabama would just go and completely censor it altogether to fail to educate their children. And if these people really do care about educating children, then let me just ask you this. Why, like, if you want to try to teach children, why not give them proper education? Why not put put a lot more money on children's education so that they can have, so that they can learn properly, especially like have proper sex ed so that they could understand more about the human anatomy and how sex actually works and how developing a baby can actually work, so that we can avoid uneducated people like those who support the GOP and the GOP who want to make abortion bans without understanding how women's anatomy works and what can actually go wrong when delivering a baby and miscarriages and all that kind of stuff, or worst case, how women can actually die and the baby can die as well. They need to be, like, those people who think abortion should be banned, they need to be more educated. So we need more sex ed to have them understand about the human anatomy and also to understand about the world around us. More education to understand that there is much more than just their little safe space and their little home in that little town of Alabama, that they need to expand their knowledge, that there are so many different people with so many different interests, with so many different tastes, and that is perfectly fine. As long as they're not doing it to harm others, then their viewpoints are perfectly okay. And on top of that, if they really do care about children as much as they would claim, then of course they would have to care about their safety. So they would have to do something in order to limit the amount of mass shootings that seem to be massively on the rise of America and also a bit around the world. So some stricter gun control so that we would minimize the amount of mass shootings to happen instead of like happening all around in American schools, because so far guns are the ones that are causing mass shootings, and guns are the ones that are killing American children. If you care about American children, then you want to make sure that guns are removed to make sure that no kid can die from guns ever again. You want to try to do that, right? If you really do care about kids, then you want to ensure that they get the proper education and that they do have more safety. Otherwise, you're pretty much viewed as a hypocrite, and you seem to care a lot more about yourself, and you care a lot more about guns than children. It's like when a baby gets born, and then suddenly this guy comes in, shoots the baby dead, the doctor will just be there going, "Oh, well, baby is gone. That's the price of freedom. Don't worry there, pal, who just shot a baby. We'll make sure we'll protect your rights in order to use that gun, because it's the American way." So that's the big thing. We need more education. And I think that should be the, that's the thing. We need what was it? There we go. I just got it. I think that's honestly the moral of this podcast. I think if there's one thing that we need to walk out about this, it's the fact that we should get more educated. Now, even though some of us are no longer in school, there's always time for us to go and learn. And we need to educate ourselves that there is more to us than just us, of course. That the world doesn't revolve around us, that we revolve around the world. And from there, we need to learn about the different people that's all around us. And the more that we understand them, the more that we learn about their point of view, the more that we can help gather peace. So basically, what I am saying is that if you're one of those people that think that you can dictate what others do with their bodies because of your religious or political beliefs, or if you think you can censor the amount of representation of the LGBT community on media, you're an idiot! So with that said, oh boy, it looks like, oh wow. I just realized right over here that there are some people just saying, it was like, oh my god, troll alert, troll alert, troll alert. Yeah, I'll take care of that. I'll take care of that, guys. Don't worry. But anyways, with all that said and done, let me know from you guys. I want to get into the chat wall, and I want to know what you think about this whole thing right over here. I want to know if you guys are wondering about the whole situation. Let me know about your thoughts. Let me know about the whole situation related to Alabama and the Arthur episode. Let me just know about your thoughts right over here. Okay. Let's see here. I mean, I think that the problem in the end, it's only one state that chose to ban the premiere for themselves. At the very least, they didn't choose to censor or ruin the premiere for everyone else outside the state, right? You never know, man. That's the thing, is that it could, like, the worst case is that it could actually cause a domino effect, because Alabama, like, especially with the abortion ban, when Alabama did their abortion ban, you got so many other uneducated states from uneducated politicians who want to force out their strict abortion laws without understanding how women's anatomy works. So that's kind of the biggest thing, is that, yeah, like, I mean, I think it is a good thing that the grand majority of people are criticizing Alabama, including for the case of Arthur, so that we can learn to not make that same mistake again. That the more educated, you know, like, that we do have the more educated people talk down to the uneducated Alabama people to understand that what they are doing is wrong. They need to be pointed that out more often. Let's see. I thought Alabama legalized LGBT rights since 2015, but to be fair, this ain't the only time Alabama has forbade something LGBT related to kids' media. They banned the 2017 Beauty and the Beast because of LeFou. At this point, Malaysia is more okay with LGBT content than Alabama. Well, no, Alabama is okay. Alabama is cool with abortions and LGBT rights. It's just the uneducated Trump-supporting Alabama conservatives. The uneducated Alabama conservatives. Those are the real problems. Those are the ones that are causing issues and disgracing their country. They are the ones that are causing the problems. And they need to be learned a lesson. That's the thing. They need to be pointed out. So that's what you got to do. They are the ones that have to be educated. Okay. Let's see now. Thank you, Matt, for your opinion about this Alabama mess. I'll just simply stay away from that state and stay in my hometown of Southern California. We are welcoming any cultures from LGBT communities to Hispanic cultures. Oh, that's very nice. And I mean, like, SoCal. You can't go any better than SoCal, man. Beautiful place. It has Disneyland, so I approve. Okay, let's see. Do we have anything else right over here? Do we have any other comments? No, it looks like, no, we got, pretty much, I think, with all that said and done, we should go and conclude this right over here. And I think that should wrap things up for this little episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So, I just would like to say, with all that said and done, I would like to thank everybody who are both watching and listening to this. I definitely had a blast with this episode, and I hope you guys had a blast with this as well. Tune in next week for more potential crazy animation and all-around crazy news in general. I hope to see you all next time, so I just would like to say thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see you later, dudes!